This is my second time recording this video because the audio in the last one was shit and I don't know why. So I'm gonna hope this sounds decent enough because I'm tired and I don't feel like doing this again. Anyway, hello. Welcome to my channel. If you are new, if you're not new, welcome back to my channel. My name is Marina and this is a bi-monthly wrap-up video. Welcome. Hello. For those of you guys that don't know, if you're new to my channel, I do bi-monthly wrap-ups. I've only been getting through like maybe a few books a month, and that's not fun to talk about if I do a monthly wrap-up. Like, who just wants to sit down and talk about like 3 books? The video would only be a few minutes long. So I do bi-monthly wrap-ups so I can put 2 months worth of book reviews in one video, and I think that's better content. However, because of that, I have 11 books to talk about today. So we're just gonna like get through this speedy, quickly, and hope that you can hear me. July and August were pretty decent reading months. Like, I didn't give anything below a 3, maybe like 1 or 2 books, but out of 11 books, I don't think that's that bad. So without further ado, let's get into it. First book I read in July was The Grim Reaper's Lawyer by Mia Monique. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I have no words to describe my thoughts about this book. It was just really entertaining. Good, great fun. I gave it a 3 stars, okay? If you don't know what The Grim Reaper's Lawyer is about, it's about this woman named Joyce. She dies very tragically. In the limbo of afterlife, she gets taken by a Grim Reaper, and he's like, hey, I know you want to go up and see the big guy or whatever, but I need your help. I'm getting charged for like crimes that I did not commit, and you were a lawyer before you died, and I think you can help me. So do you mind like being my lawyer for this case? Because I'm about to be sent to hell for eternity. And she's just like, hello? What happened to hi, hello, my name is, what happened to that, you know? But she does end up taking on the case for reasons, and it's kind of a romance between her and this Grim Reaper. His name is Aiden, I think. It was just really unserious fun. I will say that I enjoyed the romance part of this book. I did. What I did not enjoy was like the first person perspective. I would have really enjoyed if this book was in third person, just because like I feel like first person dialogue and perspective is just like really cringy sometimes, and I didn't enjoy it in this book. I really liked how the afterlife was depicted. Like, there were stages, and like if you guys ever seen the show The Good Place, it's kind of like that, where everyone has their own sort of job that they do. They're kind of just living their life naturally. There is no real like good or bad. It's kind of like in this limbo state, but being a Grim Reaper is a job, so like there are like different stages to being a Grim Reaper, stuff like that. I just like how Mia Monique described the afterlife. It wasn't in any way that I've seen portrayed in media before. That's all to say that I really liked it. The Grim Reaper's Lawyer. Fun time. I would recommend it. Next book is one that was actually my most anticipated read of this year. I remember when this book was announced last year and I was like, I will be reading it. And it came out in January, and I was in the UK in January, and I couldn't get it because it wasn't in any Waterstones or any bookstores over there, so I had to wait till I got home to read this. Let's talk about Reggie and Delilah's Year of Falling by Elise Bryant. One of my favorite reads of the year. 5 stars, no notes. It is Elise Bryant's latest YA novel. It's about these 2 characters, Reggie and Delilah. Reggie is this nerd guy. He is mostly to himself. He likes playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends every weekend, kind of chill. Like I said, he keeps to himself. He's not really the type to like go out to parties or anything. But one night his friends convince him to go to this like club event where Delilah is. She's performing with her friends in their band. Delilah's not one to get on stage and do stuff like that. She's also pretty to herself, kind of antisocial in like the anxious person type of way. Like, she just doesn't really like getting out of her comfort space, her little bubble. But her friends really needed a lead singer in their band, and she couldn't say no because she's also a people pleaser. So she was like, sure, why not? And when these 2 cross paths at this club event, by the way, this takes place on New Year's Eve. After this, they end up accidentally meeting every holiday for the rest of the year. So like every single time that they interact, it's on a specific holiday. And it got to the point where like they're just like, hey, this is kind of a coincidence. Why don't we like schedule this and we can update each other on our lives like every time a holiday comes around? And it's just really cute. You get to see the progression of their friendship and then like obviously their relationship along the way. Guys, it's just so cute. Like if you couldn't tell by this cover alone, it's just so freaking cute. Probably my favorite novel by Elise Bryant, because if you don't know, I have read her other 2 books. She's one of my favorite YA authors. The way that she just writes romance is just so comforting to me. Like I love it. But I think this might be not just my favorite book, but her favorite characters that she has written, because I didn't think anything could top Happily Ever After's characters. That was her first book. But no, this Reggie and Delilah, those are my kids, my children. I love them so much. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars. If you just want like a little cozy read or something to like pick up your spirits, read Reggie and Delilah. I think this is a must read. Go read it. And then the next book I'm not going to spend much time talking about because I made a whole video dedicated to this book. So Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. If you guys watch my reading vlog for it, you would know my thoughts and opinions on this book. I saved my rating for my wrap up because at the end of that vlog I really didn't know what to rate this book. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. If you guys don't know what Fourth Wing is about, if you haven't heard about it, you're one of the lucky ones. Okay? This book has been taking over social media for like months, and the sequel is coming out soon, so I'm sure it's gonna get brought back up in media again as soon as that sequel comes out. It's about this girl named Violet. She lives in a society where it's all divided up into like quadrants. She wants to be in the scribe quadrant. That's all about like books and literature. But her family, they're known for being in the dragon riders quadrant. She does not want to be a dragon rider though. She's like, I'm so good that I'm great. Like I don't need to be a part of that. You guys go. But her mom forces her. So this whole book is about her training to become a dragon rider, getting a dragon, and maybe there's some side romance on the side with a particular guy. That's kind of the plot. Like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about my thoughts and feelings. If you really want to know, there's literally a whole vlog dedicated to it. But to like sum it up, I had a pretty good time reading this book. At the time that I read this book, it has been like a while since I read adult fantasy that I was instantly hooked on. I haven't been reading much fantasy this year, and this kind of put me in a fantasy mood, which I really appreciated. This is told in first person perspective, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I think because of that, I was just kind of getting through it so easily because Violet's POV isn't hard to read like at all. What I didn't like was like her descriptions of Xaden, the main love interest. It was making me like cringe on myself. But yeah, 3.5 stars for Fourth Wing. I also really liked the representation in this book. There's a lot of representation in this book, whether it be like disability rep, POC rep. A lot of that I appreciated, especially in fantasy, because I feel like it's rarely done. And when it is done, it's not really done all that well. And I think Rebecca Yarros did a pretty good job. Fourth Wing. Again, go check out the vlog if you want to see it. Next book that I read in July, right after Fourth Wing, was Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a companion novel to Delilah Green Does Not Care. I talked about that book in my last wrap up, and I think I also brought up in that last wrap up how I was in the middle of reading Astrid Parker. And I was, but then all these other books got in the way. But I did end up finishing it. If you guys don't know what Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail is about, it's about Astrid, Delilah Green's stepsister. And it takes place kind of right after the events of the last book. And if you read that first book, you know that Astrid Parker's life is kind of falling apart by the end of that book. So this book is just all about her and how her life is going and how she's trying to like get back into the world, whether it be like with her personal life, her dating life, or just her job. When it comes to her job, she's an interior designer and business has not been booming lately, and her mom has been on her case about it. She's like, why aren't you bringing in money? Why aren't you being successful? So to make her, you know, see that she is a successful businesswoman, she goes and helps this one inn in their town, like this bed and breakfast type inn, get remodeled. They're known for being like a good tourist attraction. It's kind of known for being haunted. The inn owner was like, I want to renovate it, and Astrid is instantly on the case. But she has a little altercation with the owner's granddaughter, and the owner's granddaughter is also the one who's gonna be like building stuff. She's like the head bitch in charge when it comes to building all this stuff. So her and Astrid have to interact for the entirety of this project, and Astrid's like, oh shit. She's like, oh no, what did I do? A little bit of romance sparking between the two of them, but it's also like they just don't like each other, like at all. And it should be noted that this is also getting filmed. Like it's all on a reality show. Think like home improvement type thing to bring in more people to the end once it's done getting renovated. So on camera they have to act like they are all good and dandy, but behind the scenes they can't stand each other. It's a really funny, good book. It's a really good premise as well. I've never read a book with this type of premise before, and I thought it was so funny. I love Astrid Parker. I said this in my last video. I like a good misunderstood mean girl, okay? Like that's kind of my thing. I love an ice queen. I eat it up every time. I knew going into Astrid's book I was gonna love her and her story regardless. I was biased, what can I say? I think I gave this book a higher rating than Delilah Green. I think I gave Delilah Green 4.5 stars, and I gave Astrid Parker 5 stars. Jordan, the love interest, she was really good as well. I liked her and Astrid's chemistry a lot in this book. I thought it was eating, it was giving, their dynamic together, even when they were like really not a fan of one another, when they did not like each other, the tension, the sparks, they were flying. It's just like one of those rom-com books that I could read over and over and never get tired of. And I can't wait for the third companion novel to come out that's about Iris. Iris is Astrid's best friend, and she's getting her own book, and I can't wait. I think that comes out in November. So yeah, that's Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. Go read it, okay? It's so cute. Go read Delilah Green Doesn't Care as well. They're just really good, wholesome, sapphic rom-com books. Next book was one I also did a video for, and was a reread, okay? Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I annotated a copy of Legendborn for my best friend, and I gave it to her, and I made a whole video for that. And that was like my third time reading Legendborn, so nothing to really say. If you guys don't know, this is actually my favorite book of all time. I love this book, I love this series, and I was really happy to annotate that for my friend. Obviously I gave it 5 stars. I feel like every time I read this book I kind of want to bump the rating up. Like if I could give it a 10 out of 10 I would. If I could give it a 20 out of 20 I would. It's gonna serve every time, no notes given. If you guys don't know what Legendborn is about, it's about this girl named Bree, and she is grieving her mom's death. A very sad time in her life, but then like a few months after her mom's passing, she gets sent to like this early college that she applied to, the same early college that her mom went to, but she soon comes across things that don't make sense. She's seeing all these demons and stuff on campus. She's like, is no one else seeing this? She's like, am I going crazy? And she soon realizes that all of these things that she's seeing has to do with the secret society on campus she infiltrates, because she has a feeling that this secret society has something to do with her mom's death. What she doesn't know though is that the secret society is filled with descendants of King Arthur and his 13 knights. But she's kind of gagged. She's like, oh shit. She has no idea what she got herself into, but she's willing to stay to figure out who killed her mom, why her mom was involved with this, or why they even knew her mother. It's kind of like a murder mystery type thing, but like with King Arthurian stuff on the side. It's wild. I can't explain to you how good this series is. I also did a reading vlog for the sequel on my other channel. Yeah, that sequel was wild as well, and I can't wait for the third book. I think it's supposed to come out next year, but I don't know. I'm hoping it does. It's so good. Tracy Deonn can do no wrong in my eyes. If you want like a really in-depth, dense fantasy, specifically YA fantasy, you should read this, because it might be confusing the first read, because like Tracy Deonn like crams a lot of world building in this book, this first book especially, and you kind of feel like you're stupid. That's how I felt, at least. I was like, why am I not understanding the words on this page? It's okay, you're not gonna get it maybe until like you're 50% into it, but it's so worth reading. I have yet to read any kind of YA fantasy or a fantasy in general like this book. It's so good. I will say to check the trigger warnings though, because it gets into a lot of stuff about being Black in America and slavery and hate crimes. Check trigger warnings if that might send you over the edge, because it almost did for me, okay? But I would still recommend this book. Every time I read it, I love it even more. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Okay, now the next books I'm going to talk about are ones that were not on my radar. I think I found it through Twitter, but even that, I'm not even sure. I just happened to stumble across these books, and I read all 3 of them back to back. I'm going to be talking about the Spear Crest King series by Aurora Reed. These are all romance books. Some are dark romance, some are not. And I'm going to give my thoughts, because I have a lot to say about this series. Spear Crest Knight is the first book. This book is about Evan and Sophie. They were friends years ago, but now Evan is Sophie's bully. Stay with me, walk with me. They have not liked each other at all. They actually hate each other's guts. No one really knows why. Evan is just always on Sophie's case until one day he needs her, because Evan's failing a class, and the school that they go to, it's like a British school. It's an academy. It's in the UK. It takes people from like all across the world, all these students who are very, very smart. They get put in here, either that or they get in with the help of their parents' money. But Evan's just like, I can't flunk out of this class. I need help. So the school sends Sophie to tutor him, because she's one of the head tutors of the school. Like, she's known to be really, really smart. And so they have to get along in order for him to pass this one class. And they get to the root of their issues as to why they don't like each other, and if their friendship could be amended, and if there are maybe feelings there. Let me tell you my thoughts. I have never read a dark romance in my life before this. I don't do dark romance. I try not to, because nothing about it sounds appealing. That's not to hate on people that like dark romance. You can read what you want, obviously. Do what you do. But for me, when I hear bully romance, I'm instantly running in the other direction. I did not know this was a bully romance going in, okay? So when I got through those first few pages of him like tormenting this poor girl, bullying her in ways I have nightmares about, I was like, oh, I see. And yet I couldn't put the book down. Each book I read in one single day. I don't know why I was so hooked on this book and this series in particular. Well, I can tell you why I was hooked on the series, but this book, I don't know why I couldn't put it down. I literally got through it in the span of a day, and I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought that Evan, the guy, he was an idiot throughout the whole book. I was not rooting for him nor the relationship, yet I couldn't stop reading. It's just something about the way Aurora Reed writes these books. I'm kind of just like, okay, maybe you did something, because there's no reason why this should be as addicting as it is. Like, I'm so serious. I'm like waiting for the 4th book right now. I thought Evan was stupid. One of the most stupid main characters in any book I've ever read. Like, I couldn't feel any sympathy for him because he kept on messing up. I read the ebook version. The ebook is like 900 pages. So I had to go through 900 pages of him literally messing up over and over again and expecting Sophie to forgive him. And I was like, girl, please run. But she never did. And yet I still continued to read. That's kind of like the gist of this review. I don't know why I was reading it, but I read it and I still gave it over 3 stars. So I learned something new about me. I will say, I think I gave this book over 3 stars because I love a man groveling. And that's what Evan did. Over half of this book, I feel like, was just him groveling for Sophie, and I'm gonna eat it up, because she didn't give him the time of day for a while in this book. She just kept on saying, leave me alone, and he did not take the hint. Red flag. But also, like, grovel, show that you are sorry. But yeah, that's Spear Crest Knight. Now onto Spear Crest Prince. This is the sequel. Now, I don't think I explained the series because it all takes place in this one academy. Each book is about a different guy in this friend group. This friend group is the one that runs the school. These group of guys, the Spear Crest Kings, as people would say. The second book, Spear Crest Prince, is about Severin. You get to see all of these guys a little bit in the other books. So like, we saw a piece of Severin in Evan's book, but like, we didn't know much about him. He kept on hinting at the fact that he is in an arranged marriage and how he hates it. So that's what this second book is about. He's in an arranged marriage by his parents. His parents is like, after you graduate from this academy, you will be getting married to this girl. This girl, Anais. I don't know if I'm pronouncing either of their names right. I have no idea, sorry in advance, but the girl's name is Anais, and she gets told by her parents the same thing. She's like, you are in an arranged marriage. We're going to send you off to the school that this guy is at so you guys can bond and get to know each other. And then once you guys are out of there, you are getting married. And Anais is just like, all right. Sure, but in reality, she's planning on running for the hills. She is not getting married to this man, but she goes to the school, and for the longest time, they didn't even interact. Like, they did not cross paths while at the school for like months until they come across each other at a party. And that interaction did not go well, so they off the bat just did not like each other, did not get along. They were just like, I do not want to marry you. You are not my person. Until one day they are paired together in an art project where they have no choice but to settle their differences for the good of their grades because they're both scholars or whatever. So I gave this book a 2. I rated it lower than the first book, which I didn't think was gonna happen. I don't know. I don't read much arranged marriage books. Not because I have anything against arranged marriage books. It's just because like they don't get recommended to me, and I don't have anything else to compare this book to. But for an arranged marriage book, I was kind of just like, meh. It was kind of just like, I don't see any real chemistry here. I thought Severin, just like Evan, terrible love interest, he's very immature. He's so sexist, like in a way that's not even just like, oh, he'll get better throughout the book, she'll change him. He's so sexist throughout this entire book. Like he sleeps around and stuff. Anna East doesn't care. She's kind of just like unbothered with everything Severin does, but as soon as she does something, such as like talk to a guy, not even flirt, but just like talk, he gets so triggered. Everything Anna East does, he's triggered by, and it pisses me off. Like he's such a child that I couldn't do it. This book is a little over 800 pages. It felt like it was longer, and I did not like it. I also think there's a scene in the book that made me so uncomfortable. It's when they're on a class field trip. I'm not going to give too much away, but it's when they're on a class field trip and they're in the woods and something happens that I don't find comfortable. And I would say it's like very close, if not to being assault. I didn't like it, but yet whenever these two are together, they reminisce on that moment as if it's cute. And I didn't think that was cute at all. Everything about this book was just The only reason why I gave it a 2 was because I like Anna East, and every time I read in her point of view, I was kind of just like vibing. She's such a good main character in my opinion, because she doesn't want to talk to anyone at the school, doesn't want to talk to her fiance. She's kind of just doing her art and waiting till she can run away and get out of this marriage. She's just very not with the shit when it comes to Severin, and she tells him, she's like, hey, we're kind of just waiting around until we get married. You don't have to talk to me if you don't want to. She's like, I don't want you, you don't want me, let's not even do this. Like, yes, like Anna East, she was a good main character in my opinion, but when it came to Severin, he made this book unbearable in every single way. Everything was about him, and oh my god, it was so freaking annoying. So like, so far in this series, the guys at this point were just giving me nothing. And then we get to the third book, Crest Saints. Now, if you watched my last video, I mentioned that I got done reading one of the best romance books of all time. I was talking about Crest Saints. Hear me out. It's academic rivals to lovers. I don't read academic rivals to lovers. I've only read one academic rivals to lovers book, and it was in the Calloway Sisters trilogy. If you know, you know, the Addicted / Calloway Sisters trilogy, like my favorite romance series of all time. It's just so good. And Rose and Connor, they gave me everything from that trope that I ever wanted, that I don't read it from other series in books because I just don't think it's going to compare. This couple in Crest Saints, Theodora and Zachary, they're basically Rose and Connor's kids. Like the way that this is set up, oh my god. Guys, like I said, you see a little bit of each couple in other books, like in the background. So like in each book at this point, I was seeing Theodora and Zachary in the background, just like debating, arguing, whatever. And I was like, I can't wait to get to their books. I feel a spark. And why is this kind of the best romance book of all time? I'm being so serious right now. Zachary and Theodora, they've known each other since they were basically kids. Like Theodora moves all the way from Russia to go to this school, and she meets Zachary on her first day, and they're like 12 at this point. And so it's the start of them first meeting all the way up until the senior year where they're about to graduate. Mind you, all of these books take place in the same year, the graduating year, so I think year 13. Like the other 2 books were just taking place in the span of that 1 year. Crest Saints takes place all the way from when these two characters, Zachary and Theodora, are kids up until they graduate. So you really see the slow burn of their relationship for like, I don't know, 6 years. It's ridiculous. Zachary, off the bat, he's like already into Theodora. Like, it's giving insta love, but not. As he gets to know her and gets closer to her, he knows his feelings off the bat. He's like, I'm so in love with this girl. And he's like 13. And he's very open about it. Theodora, though, she keeps to herself. She's kind of the ice queen of the school. No one really messes with her because they know that she's not really here for a good time. She's here for academics and academics only because she has very strict parents. By the way, her dad does not let her date. So it's also like a forbidden love trope as well. And because her dad doesn't let her date, she never really gets close to Zachary. They just happen to cross paths a lot because they are both at the top of their school, hence academic rivals. They're both at the top of their school. They know that they are their only competitors when it comes to like being what some might say valedictorian. I don't know what it is in like the UK standards. They are that at their school. So that's the only reason she crosses paths with him. But she does like him. She just can't be around him because like her dad's kind of crazy. So like she stays away from Zach mostly to protect him, but also because she thinks that he's very annoying. Zach is just like very, again, open with his feelings. He's like, I love you. I love you so much. And he says it so nonchalantly. And she doesn't know how to take it. She's just like, it builds from there every single year, and it's just so good to the point where they get to year 13, the year where all these other relationships are going down. Zachary and Theodora reach ahead where they are just like, we know how we both feel about each other. How can we make this work? Like Zachary, especially in the senior year, graduation year, he notices that Theodora, for some reason, isn't her usual self. She seems pretty detached from everyone and everything. There's like this one thing, I don't know what it's called. Think of it as like valedictorian, okay? They have a chance to be the like top person at school, the valedictorian, or the principal is like, hey, I'm taking like a group of kids, you guys all are going to be put into this program where it's like only the elites of the school, like the smartest of the smart people can be put into the school, and it determines who was the one at top. And Zachary's like, oh, I'm gonna take it because I know that Theodora is gonna do it, and this is finally the chance for me to prove that I am ahead of her in terms of academics. And he notices that she's not doing it, and he's like, that's not normal. He sees that she's like very sad all the time, and like, so the plot of this book is literally just them going head to head to get this top spot in this school, and him convincing her to do it with him as well because he knows that something's not right with her. Guys, I don't know if I'm explaining this right. All I can say is that this book is like probably one of my favorite books of the year as well. I have yet to read a couple like this in so long. Like, yeah, the girl fell, but the guy fell 10 times harder. Zach had no chance. Every time I read in his point of view, it was like so refreshing. Because like I said, the other two guys in the first two books, trash. But then we get to Zachary, and it's like nothing can compare to this. This is one of the best book boyfriends I've ever read. You want to know why? Because there's no miscommunication. Zachary is upfront about his feelings from jump. And he knows that Theodora feels the same way. And he's very confident about that too. And she doesn't deny either. She just doesn't talk to him. So there's no miscommunication there. They are on the same page. It's just like, how can we be together when your father's kind of crazy? That's kind of the conflict. But the romance in this book is ridiculously well done. So beautifully written. Aurora Reed's pen in this book was penning in a way I haven't seen in a romance in a while. Like, it was just so well done. I recommended this book to my friend as well, the same friend that I gave my annotated copy of Legendborn, and she read it in the span of a day as well. She kept texting me, updating me her thoughts, and she was freaking out, and she was like, this is amazing. I was like, yes. I think everyone should read this book. I gave it a 5-star. It was just so refreshing. Like I said, I've never read a book where both main characters are so upfront about their feelings. Like, it was just, so good. I loved it all. And like, their love was so deep for each other. Like, they loved each other so much. It was so, like, when you think of couple goals, I think this is kind of the bar, the standard. Like, Theodora and Zachary, they're kind of it. I don't know if I explained that book well at all, but just know, if I am this flustered with explaining a book, that it's probably like peak literature. Go read it. The 4th book is supposed to come out in, I think, October. It was hinted in Spear Crest Saints. what the trope might be. Brother's best friend. Ooh, say less. I'm gonna read it. I'm so excited. Those were the Crest Kings books. I don't know why I was hooked, but I'm happy to be here, and I will be reading that fourth book. So yeah, okay, now let's get on to books that you probably know I read if you watched my previous video. I'm not gonna go that deep into them, but Merciless Ones by Namina Forna. This is the sequel to The Gilded Ones, the sequel that I've been saying that I have been wanting to read for months. I finally got to it, guys. I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3.75 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a little bit darker compared to the first one, which I didn't think was possible because that first book kind of dark, but this kind of exceeded it a little bit. Will say I walked into this book thinking that it was the last book in a duology. I don't think that's the case because of how the way this book ended. I think there's going to be another book and I'm going to read it. I'm hooked. I think Namina Forna did a really good job with this sequel, but I just really thought I was gonna get a happy-ish ending, and now I just have more questions and answers that I need. If you guys haven't read The Gilded Ones, you really should. I don't feel like explaining the plot to it, but I explained the plot for it in my last wrap up because I reread the first one 2 months ago to prepare to read the sequel. So again, very dark for YA fantasy. Check trigger warnings for this as well. But I really enjoyed the found family with Decca and her friends in this book. I felt it a lot more in this book than I did in the first book because it really feels like these friends against the world. It's really cute. It's like the cute part of the book when everything else is like lit up on fire, the world is ending, and these friends are all they have, and they would literally do anything for one another in this world where like they can't trust anyone else, anyone, any god. It's just them. And I thought that was really cute. It was kind of my favorite part of the book, was seeing the found family. For the most part, it was just really confusing. This book was so, like, the plot twists, they were twisting. And I felt like every time I had my questions answered, I had more questions. And I just need more answers. Please give me the third book. That's all I'm going to say. The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna, 3.75. Next book, The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. I also read this in my last video. And I had a lot to say about it, so I'm not going to explain too much. But if you don't know what The Kingmaker is about, it's about these two characters, Lennox and Maxim, and how they meet and their relationship after they meet over the course of like years. Maxim is the son of a guy who runs an oil company, and they're filthy rich. He's like what you would think of when you think of like white privileged upper class boy. But he's not about that life. He's like, I like climate change and the environment, and that's the stuff that he believes in. He left his family a while ago, and it's just about his journey of like building his own business that helps the planet from the ground up without his father's money. Lennox is kind of the main character of the book. She is one who's all about protesting, putting oil pipelines in indigenous plantations, because that's what Maxim's father does. He just takes over their land and puts all of this oil and shit in their water, and she's like, no. So she runs a lot of protests, and that's how they actually meet, at one of the protests that Lennox was running, and their relationship kind of kicks off from there. It's really good. Their chemistry was eating, as I expected, because this is a Kennedy Ryan book. Like, let's be real, her characters are going to eat every time. I gave this a 3.5 because I don't really like insta love. I know I just went on and on about Crest Saints and how that was kind of insta lovey, but with that it was more of a slow burn over the course of years. This is also over the course of years, but I wouldn't say it's a slow burn because they kind of fall for each other literally as soon as they meet. There's like no real wait for it. You kind of get the vibe from the first 10 pages that yeah, these two love each other like a lot. And even like when, because there are multiple time jumps in the book, even over the course of time, the love is still there, and you're kind of just like, oh, very fast, but okay. I'll say that's probably the only thing I disliked about the book, and dislike is like a strong word. Like, I was kind of bothered by it, but it didn't deter me off from the book. I really liked the book. That cliffhanger, ridiculous, unserious. I'm happy I have the sequel so I can get into it whenever I want to, but I'm kind of scarred from that cliffhanger. I haven't read a cliffhanger like that in a romance ever. That was ridiculous. Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. I liked it. I'm excited to get to the sequel whenever I get to that. Okay, last book is one that I technically finished in September. I finished this September 1st, but because I spent the last week of August reading it, I'm putting it in here. Okay, so Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. I mentioned that I was in the middle of reading this in my previous video as well. I mentioned in that video that I was enjoying it so far. I was at the 50% mark, I think, and I was really enjoying it. I gave this book a 2.75. It might get lower depending on how I'm feeling, but yeah, I ended up rating this book a 2.75. I did not like this book. Even thinking about it, I'm getting upset. Now, if you don't know what Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade is about two characters, Maria and Peter. They are both actors. They have a one-night stand. The book literally takes place like in the midst of the one-night stand, and Peter is like really into Maria. He's like, oh, I'm definitely gonna ask her out after this. Like, I'm so into her. Maria, she could not wait to get out of the apartment. She was like, I'm dipping as soon as this is over. And she does exactly that, which no problem there. There was no commitment, so why? But Peter doesn't take that all that great. He's kind of hurt, but whatever. They are both actors, so they end up auditioning for the same show literally the day after the one night stand. They both see each other and they're just like, oh, this is awkward. And they get the parts of the show that they auditioned for, and they get sent on set, and the set is on a remote island with just the two of them. It's like a fantasy show, so the cast is kind of spread out all across the globe filming their scenes, and Maria and Peter's scenes all take place on this one island, so they're just going to be stuck together with just them and then like the other people that work in the crew. The show lasts for about 6 years, and Peter is still kind of just like, I'm into her, but I'm kind of hurt because I don't think she feels the same way. Maria is like, oh, he's still very attractive to me. That commitment, can't do it. But they slowly start to like understand one another and get closer because it's a 6-season show, 6 years. They're on this set together all the time with no one else really around, so they're bound to like do something, you know? The book is just about them having to develop feelings on and off camera and what their relationship would be like since they are co-stars as well. I thought this book was really cute in the beginning, okay? Like, I had no problems with the book. In literally the first half, I was vibing. I was like, this is cheesy, but it's exactly what I wanted at the time, and I was just having a really good, great, fun time with it. And then that third act breakup happened. See, I have no problem with a third act breakup. It's something I literally expect going into any and every romance. The third act breakup is a trope that, you know, gets old after a while, but it's just something that you learn to expect, especially if you're a romance reader like I am. You're just waiting for it at some point. So it wasn't the third act breakup being there that pissed me off. It was more so the reason behind the third act breakup. It was stupid, and it made me give the book a low rating. I can't go into specifics because it's obviously a spoiler, but one of the characters was being so freaking unreasonable, and it made me upset. And it's not one of those like miscommunication breakup trope reasons. It was mostly just like common sense that got in the way for some reason. Let me be clear, I love Maria and Peter's dynamic. They're always like really open with one another about their feelings. Normal for Maria because she's like the bubbly sunshine type of girl, and Peter is awkward socially. He doesn't talk to many people. He's not used to like building friendships with people, very standoffish and kind of grumpy. That's their dynamic, and I enjoyed that the entirety of the book. However, when it came to head and this third act breakup, I was like, their personalities aren't the reason why they break up. It's like some other stuff, but I like seeing it play out and how their two personalities just kind of clashed in this. I was like, because one of the characters in particular, I'm not going to say which character, one of the characters really pissed me off because the reason that they broke up with the other made no freaking sense to me. I was like, what? It made no freaking sense. I had to put the book down. That's why I finished this book in September instead of August. I could have easily gotten through this book in a few days. It's the fact that that third act breakup really pissed me off that I put the book down for like 2 or 3 days before picking it back up because I was just flabbergasted. It was like the most immature reason. Mind you, these are both grown adults, okay? There's like a little bit of an age gap. I think it's like almost a 10-year age gap between Maria and Peter, but they're both, when they meet each other, they're both in like their mid-20s, maybe early 30s. Again, they know each other for the span of 6 years, so they literally grow with one another. There should be some form of maturity in this relationship, not just because of your age, but because of how long you guys have known each other. So the reasoning behind that breakup literally made no freaking sense to me. And I can't even give the reason. I can't explain why. Can I? Okay, I'm gonna give a spoiler here. I'm gonna give a spoiler and then you guys can jump ahead if you don't want one, but this part's gonna be a spoiler because I need to vent. I've been wanting to vent about this for like a while now. Maria, this is about Maria. Maria is the person that breaks up with Peter. She breaks up with him because he takes a role after their show is finished. Because, you know, he needs to pay the bills somehow. He continues to take roles. He took a role that means that he's going to have to move to Vancouver. Okay? And, you know, as an actor, you have to move around for your job. You can't just stay based in LA. I mean, you can, but all the best jobs, the ones that pay the most, are not going to be in LA. Maria knows this because she's an actor herself. But yet, as soon as he's like, yeah, I took that role in Vancouver, she's like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. I need to be around people that make me happy, and you make me happy, and me traveling around with you all the time, it's not gonna make me happy. Context, she is from Sweden. So like at this point she moves to LA to be with Peter because at this point they're together, and she's like, I moved across the world for you and you can't even, you're like booking the first thing you can. And he's like, Maria, I already like am in negotiations to like find a place where like it can have the two of us, like I can visit you in LA and you can visit me in Vancouver, like it won't be that bad. But she's so stubborn. She's like, nope, that's not gonna work. Long distance is not my thing. I don't want to do this with you. Like, no. Why can't you take stuff in LA? Why does it have to be across the globe? As if these two were not acting on a remote island for 6 years. She knows that the best opportunities sometimes are not in LA, and yet she still was like, I can't be with you because you're being really selfish. Like, how dare you make me have to move back and forth because of the job that you have. Granted, I have the same job, but I'm not gonna jump at the first chance I can to get something that's away from you. Like, you're not taking me into consideration. I'm just like, girl, y'all have to pay the bills some way. And he got a job as soon as the show that you guys were in together ended. That should be a good thing. And yet it wasn't, and she broke up. And now the breakup was one thing. It was the way that this author was trying to gaslight me in Peter's perspective, because Peter's like, oh, I see where I fucked up now. I understand. I'm gonna turn down the deal. I'm gonna stay in LA. All of this shit. And I'm just like, there's no way. You're gaslighting me right now. You're gaslighting me. Mind you, at that point I had like maybe 10% left, but I was like, should I finish this book? I don't know. Like, I'm so close yet I'm so far. And I finished it, but it took everything in me. And I'm glad I finished it because it did get resolved in a way that I guess made sense. But the whole reasoning behind the breakup literally pissed me off. That's one of the top, like, it has to be like top 5 stupidest third act breakups, maybe top 3. This book is a companion novel in the Spoiler Alert series by Olivia Dade. I know that's like a pretty popular series. I did not know it was a part of a series. Okay, I kind of went in blind to it. But because of that breakup and how visceral my reaction was to it, I'm not in a rush to read the other books. I'm not. Like I said, I thought that the book was really cute at first. Granted, like the pacing sometimes was weird. I felt like it dragged on a little bit too much. They could have shaved off like maybe 100 pages. But I thought that the characters, the plot was so cute that I would have pushed through. And I did push through, but once it got to that third act breakup, I was like, is it even worth it? It was really just like a really bad way of ending August. But yeah, that's Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. I have no words. I have no words. I'm tired. Yeah, those are all the books that I read in July and August. These 2 months were spent with like really good reads. It's maybe like only 1 or 2 that I was like, oh, that's not it. But I had a really good few reading months, especially because like school just started back up, so it's nice to know that I was able to get through like a bunch of good books before I had to deal with school again. Yeah, that's it. If you guys like this video, thank you. I really hope you can hear me this time, because I if I have to record this again, I will go insane. If you like to follow me on social media, here it is. I mostly interact on Twitter and Instagram, but if you like to follow me on all the other apps, they will be linked down in the description below. And yeah, that's the end of this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.